Welcome to In a Nutshell, where we take on incredibly deep and complicated topics in a short amount of time. Today we're going to try to explain how Europeans copied each other throughout the centuries. How they all created their flags independently and got to possess such legendary powers of creativity. But in all seriousness, Europe is such an interesting historical rabbit hole that I would encourage all of you to look into it, as I cannot possibly cover everything without making a 20-hour long video. With that said, let's go all the way back to the Crusades, and with them, the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar was a military order established around 1118 by this guy, that pledged to protect Christian visitors to Jerusalem, as many were being robbed and killed as they crossed through Muslim-controlled territories on their way there. They brandished this flag. Keep the design in mind for now. From about 1190 onwards, this became a recognizable symbol of St. George the Crusader during the Third Crusade, and was appropriately named St. George's Cross. The northern Italian city of Genoa adopted this as their official flag until the English came out of nowhere. Popular folklore says that Richard the Lionheart adopted the flag from Genoa and had English ships fly it as a deterrent to enemies. But between you and me, they just took it and ran with it. And by the way, England would later go on to combine their contraband flag with Scotland, the St. Andrew's Cross, to form the flag of Great Britain, and then with Ireland to create the mighty Union Jack, which together formed the United Kingdom. The St. George Cross is also known to have influenced early models of the Greek flag. Let's quickly go back to the Crusades and the time of the Knights Templar once more. During this time, several small states in the Holy Roman Empire used similar flags, like the Swiss, and this one, which looks awfully familiar, doesn't it? If you ask the Danes, they'll say it fell from the sky during the Battle of Lyndanisse in 1219. Yes, that's a real folk story, but either way, they acquired it themselves from the Holy Roman Empire. Fun fact! The Danish flag holds the world record for being the oldest continuously used national flag. Over 400 years later, Sweden described its present flag for the first time in law in 1663, which was inspired by the Danish flag and the Swedish coat of arms of 1442. During the "hey, look at my cool coat of arms" days, Norway was in the Dano-Norwegian Realm, an early multinational reunion, which was just a fancy way of saying, hey, Denmark and I get along pretty well, I think I'll just use their flag until 1814. Which is what they did until they got this one. Another fun fact! This off-centered cross in most of the Scandinavian flags is known as the Scandinavian Cross. Yes, I know, how original. Which is supposed to symbolize Christianity. Finland also followed the same design in 1848, and only after earning their independence from Tsarist Russia after the so-called Russification of Finland in 1917, did they make it official the following year. In the same year, Iceland became independent from Denmark and added their national colors to the Danish design. Then in 1979, Greenland also got their independence from Denmark, and guess where they got their flag from? No, seriously, I want you to guess. You can probably see a pattern for me now, right? Greenland got over 500 serious flag proposals, and ultimately they came up with this. I mean, it's not bad, but there were over 700 years of consistency and continuity in Scandinavia, and they just messed it up. Why, Greenland? But now it's time to backtrack a bit again, because we've covered the UK, Scandinavia, and other miscellaneous countries, but what about the rest of the continent? Well, it all started with this man, William Prince of Orange, who flew an orange, white, and blue flag like this as early as 1577, which is also considered to be the first tricolor flag due to its 3 equally sized stripes of different colors. The orange on the flag slowly changed to red as early as 1596 due to the tendency of the orange dye in the flag to fade to red over time. But to this day, orange is still a very culturally significant color in the Netherlands and the official color of the Dutch royal family. Now this is the point in time where many other European nations took a gander at the Dutch flag and realized, hey, it's free real estate. Russian ships sported a similar tricolor in 1696 after trading with the Netherlands. Then the French Revolution happened, Louis the Millionth was dethroned, and in 1790 the revolutionaries rotated the Dutch flag 90 degrees, messed around with the colors, and called it theirs. Just to clarify, red and blue were already the traditional colors of Paris, so it is probably just a coincidence. Then Napoleon I said no, and restored the all-white flag during the Bourbon Restoration in 1814. And then a completely different Louis Philippe, readopted the tricolor in 1830. Belgium had a power struggle with the Netherlands, and 2 months after their independence revolution began in 1830, they adopted their flag inspired by the Duchy of Bourbon, and originally sported a tricolor much like the Dutch one. After 1838, it was changed to be vertical, which was surely at least partially influenced by the recently established French flag as a symbol of national unity and independence. Then 1845 happened, and Luxembourg, despite almost being neighbors with the Dutch, claimed that their flag was developed completely independently because it was slightly longer and used a different shade of blue. Come on, it looks like Luxembourg asked the Netherlands if it could copy its homework for class, and the Netherlands said, sure, but just change it a little so Big Teacher Europe doesn't notice. Alright, so now before we move forward, it's important that we understand what happened in 1848, as it was a key moment in the historical development of many European countries. Known as the Spring of Nations, a revolutionary wave spread across Europe. People demanded change, and were tired of the old European monarchies. Because of this, there were huge surges of nationalism which caused the creation of several similar flags. This happened in over 50 countries, and revolutionaries from Croatia, Ireland, Romania, Slovakia, and Slovenia, among others, flew flags that would later become official. This guy, Meagher, an Irish revolutionary, was said to have been presented with an Irish tricolour made out of French silk. He showed it to the Irish people, they liked it, and it was eventually adopted in the Easter Rising of 1916. Romania pulled a Belgian by adding their national colours to the Dutch design and rotating it, but the opposite way this time so as to not arouse suspicion of plagiarism. Later, Moldova smacked their coat of arms in the middle and called it a day. Slovakia and Slovenia made variations of the Russia flag with their own respective coat of arms, and Serbia and Croatia messed around with the colors a bit while the Czech Republic got all triangular and trapezoidal with it. Skip forward to the end of World War I in 1918, and there were a series of successful independence movements in Estonia, Latvia, Armenia, and Lithuania that all sported trendy tricolor flags, except for the Latvian triband, with their national colors. Germany also had a revolution. The old German Empire was toppled and replaced with the Weimar Republic because of social tensions between the general population and the elite who had just lost the war. An old design, the black, red, gold tricolor, was made the national German flag the next year in the Weimar Constitution, which put in a system of a democratic republic. Unfortunately, the flags of Estonia, Latvia, Armenia, and Lithuania were all made illegal after all of them got absorbed by Soviet Russia soon after, but they all made fantastic comebacks at different times around the collapse of the USSR in 1991. Bulgaria actually adopted their own tricolor in the late 19th century, but didn't come to blows with the commies until after World War II. The Germans also changed their flags a few more times, but I think we all already know why. Speaking of after World War II, Austria had a hard time being divided by 4 zones occupied by the Brits, Americans, French, and Chinese. Despite this, they managed to upload their triband flag in 1945, which is based on the coat of arms of the Babenburg Dynasty and is actually not from the Dutch nor the French. Apparently this dude, Duke Leopold V, got himself completely drenched in blood at the Siege of Acre in 1260, and when he took off his outer shirt, his inner white shirt was untouched, which expired the color scheme for the Austrian flag. And they even got their independence in 1955. The Italians were in awe by Napoleon's victories in Italy, and in 1946 they made a tricolor similar to the French one, but with the red and white of the Cispadani Republic, which was led by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1796, and the color of the uniform of the Milanese Civic Guard, which was green. Finally, Hungary went through a difficult time with the Soviets during the Hungarian Uprising of 1956, which I could easily make a full-length documentary about. Anyway, they adopted their own tricolor in 1957, influenced by the OG Dutch model and the traditional coat of arms of Hungary. Well, what about Poland and Ukraine? Nah, it's just a coincidence.